there is a very acute awareness of himself. Remember, yesterday we spoke about how that whenever you are dealing with any form of communication, it begins from an authenticity of knowledge of self, so much so that you can make mistakes and lean into them because you know who you are and you have nothing to prove. And you'll find that in the conversation later on when he's talking, he even says to the gentleman he's asking to talk, he says, I can assure you that it's not brains that got me to this place.
Yeah.
Right? So when someone is aware of themselves, when someone has settled in their capacity and who they are, when they communicate, there's an authenticity to where they're communicating from. So much so that whether you look at them and listen to them and feel that they could communicate better, what they say carries so much more weight because it comes from an authentic self. And one of the things that you'll notice um, from this conversation in this particular boardroom is that this guy, when he requires the information that he wants to hear, he even says to the guy, says, speak as you might to a young child. Because sometimes we structure our conversations, like I said, we bombard with big words and all this and all that. And you end up losing the people that you want to communicate with. And so he tells us that, look, effectiveness, especially if you're talking to me, like you were saying, is look, speak as you might with a young child.
But
And he gives the platform to this guy. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, you know the way he's telling this gentleman that I want information and I want it clear. So you speak to me as if you're speaking to a little child. Eh? The way he's presenting it, he's not presenting it in that manner. Okay, the way I picked it was like you're telling somebody that be free, explain to me like you're just talking to a child, but my words and my what's this presence, they're not speaking to each other. That's what I
Yes.
picked there.
He
Like
was a
he's like,
very aggressive guy,
yes.
but it was not coming out in his words. His words were not aggressive, but his
No,
posture was. So
he's
as a person, you don't just communicate what you say. It's not just what you say that people pick. It is the internal projection of what you say. So if you walk up to someone, you know, someone can resent you and be bitter about you and then smile and say, I love you. And when they say it, you'll be like, ah,
that's true.
you know, someone who loves you will say the exact same words, but because it's coming from a genuine internal reality, it will settle. But because this person on the inside is not really what they feel and what they are communicating with the rest of who they are, you doubt what it is that they're saying. This is why the best psychopaths, I even said this yesterday, the best manipulators are those who know how to say something and also have lied to themselves enough for it to seem a reality even on the inside. So a manipulator, someone who is a con artist, who has believed their own lie, is the most dangerous individual. So you'll find that, for instance, you have noticed how many of these so-called papas, how they engage with people is that they believe that truly they hold the solution to this person. They believe it. So much so that when they are speaking, the people who are listening are able to be blinded by the fact that this person is speaking from a true conviction. Then they believe that, okay, these people, I can help them. They believe that they are the solution to your problems.
Okay. So what I'm getting here is
Oh
that
my goodness.
you're losing me?
Yes. Yes, I can get you.
Okay. Today you are loud and clear. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm saying what I'm appreciating and which is so interesting for me is that whatever I want to present, whatever I'm talking about, it should be a part of me.
Yes.
It should be a part of me. I should have, for lack of a better term, I should have emotions attached to what I'm saying that are coming from the inner me. If you
Yes.
borrow from
Yeah.
the Bible, they say that the man speaketh from the heart,
Yes.
something like that. So this is what I'm learning, that I have to speak from my internal me, actually.
Precisely. The scripture you're
Okay.
referring to says it like it says, a good man, watch this, a good man from the good treasure of his heart brings forth good things. So, in order for us to articulate what we are saying effectively, it is not only about what we say, like I said, but also about the internal truth. This is why, if you do not know how to settle the conversation on the inside, no matter how well you are saying the things, you will still come across like you are uncertain, like you are unsure, even though the facts that you are saying, the things that you're putting across are valuable, they are correct. In fact, they are better than anybody else. The truth of the matter is, if on the inside you are still doubting yourself, that what as you are talking, the conversation is, I wonder how I'm coming across, I wonder what they're thinking, I wonder what they're saying. You will find that the issue that you deal with is that the information will settle, but it will not settle as authority, it will not settle as confidence. People will be like, I like what she said. I mean, she was saying the correct things, but she doesn't give the kind of aura that we want for a leader. She doesn't seem like she can be able to be capable to lead the way we want a leader for this particular position. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
All right. And so I want us to shift. I know you only watched it once, and I know you'll have the opportunity to watch it again. When this gentleman is given the chance to
Okay, you're
speak,
breaking. You're breaking. Oh,
la, la, la. Can you hear me
I
now?
I can with some vibration.
Oh no, oh no, oh no. Another network on this side. Tell me if I'm clear now.
I can hear your voice. Maybe talk first.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Just a moment. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Um, when the other gentleman is given the chance, they're told to stand up and with a clear. All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
You are skipping.
The other gentleman is given the chance to stand up. And with a clear. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you add me to? Given.
Yes, coach. Coach. Hello.
Adding me, please. Given. Are we back? Well, coach, are we good? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Given, if you can hear me, I have the other gadget in the background. I don't know, I think I'm struggling with MTN. So maybe add the other one. Add the other one.
There's an echo.
Yeah, I'm trying to add one.
Okay.
So given, please add the gadget that's in the back end. Yes. Okay, so let's get rid of this one.
How many gadgets do you have? Now I can't hear. Are you muted? Yes, you're on mute.
I'm on mute.
No, I
Hello,
can hear
can you
you
hear
now.
me?
Yes.
Yes,
Great.
I've unmuted you.
All right. So yes, I wanted to make sure that we don't have issues, coach. Whatever gadget stops working, we have another one.
Okay.
Okay. So what I was saying was, as the scene continues, and he allowed. Sorry, let me just put it. Let me put the phone here where we can see each other better. I hope you can see me here. Okay. All right. So this other guy who's given the opportunity to speak stands up and he starts to talk. But as soon as he begins to talk, he does not listen to the instruction to be simple and to talk as he was be speaking to a young child. He very much goes into complicated and a very long and drawn out explanation. And so what usually happens, and we had a discussion just now, the call that we just finished where we're analyzing an interview that someone did. A question that allows for open-ended questions rather, make us get to the point where you can over talk to the point where you lose the audience that you're engaging with. especially if you're in a back and forth kind of conversation. If you're asked one question and you know that it has a lot of meat, you need to break it down and keep referring back so that you don't talk so long that you lose the person that you're engaging with. And he was so technical, he went on and on and on until he had to be interrupted and the ball was thrown to someone else. So
And
as you observe this particular scenario playing out, you can tell how that an awareness not only of yourself, the next thing is situational awareness whenever you're presenting is so key. One of the interviews that my wife attended, she told me that she walked in and she noticed one of the interviewers, out of 3 interviewers, one of them was sitting there and he was on his phone. Didn't even look up to acknowledge her enter. He was on his phone. And as soon as she saw that, she said, I made the decision. I knew that the person to talk to was him. If I
the
could
one
get
who
him
was
into the conversation, then I would have been successful. That is what we call situational awareness. Knowing who you must be relevant to, knowing how to be relevant to the audience you're speaking to, will determine whether you're going to be successful in any engagement.
okay.
So the first level is, okay, please go ahead. Yes, yes.
So what your wife experienced is that the interview hasn't started, but there's this
Yes.
person who doesn't seem to be like part of what is happening.
Yes.
And her plan was to ensure that she draws him to listen to her.
Yes.
Now, in an interview, assuming that it was during the interview and person just switches off, you're talking and they get to pick the phone and start touching it. How do you focus on them so that you draw them back? Or you concentrate on the others that are concentrating on you?
That's a very, very valid point. What we're discussing is situational awareness, right? So what you must do is understand how to be relevant in order for the best success. If someone switches off mid interview, they pick up their phone, they're looking away, it can be a tactic to throw you off. And it can work if you are derailed from the agenda that you have lined up for yourself. Going and trying to speak to one person that, hello.
Hello. You are frozen, but I
Can
was
you
able
hear
to
me?
hear you. Yes. You're just frozen.
Okay. All right. I think I'm back now and I can see you as well. All right. So the danger in trying to concentrate on one person is that you are losing the majority, who are the 2. But if you know that the decision
Oh.
Yebo, hello. I don't know what's happening to my backups here, but you can hear me, I hope.
Yes. I can, coach.
All right. So let me double back. Yes. Can you? Oh, you can. I can see you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Okay.
can hear you.
So what I was saying was, that the danger with trying to concentrate on one person is that you must be sure at this point that this is the decision maker. And so what we're talking about now is situational awareness. And the best approach is to ensure that your conversation is encompassing, even your gestures. You make sure that they are including everyone in the conversation. But you know that your agenda is to make sure that this person comes back into the conversation. So it cannot be evident that you've discarded the other two for this particular one that you think is important. But being aware is important to the point where you understand how to navigate and ensure that you are successful, because you know that this person who you feel might have disconnected is very important to the end game. I hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes. So in your approach then, it cannot be that it is evident that your agenda now in this particular engagement is to try to win this person who seems to have lost interest. But it must be clear that your conversation is all encompassing. You are so aware of the environment, aware of the situation, that your conversation and your communication is all encompassing, is all including. Like I said, it can be gestures that you're making sure are involving everybody, the way you say things and respond. I'm sure that each and every one of you in the room understands such things. So what you are doing is you are saying something. So imagine that, for instance, you are asked a question around, tell us an instance that you were able to deal with conflict. You can begin, because now you want to make sure that every person in the room is part of the conversation. You can begin by saying, just looking across the table, I know that each and every one of you has had to deal with conflict at some point in your journey. And immediately you are talking with everybody, even if someone has looked away and is on their phone. And so in my experience, continuing to that, what you're doing is that particular statement is to involve everyone in your response. And then you carry on to begin to state what your experience was and how you dealt with conflict on your end of the spectrum. But you have to be aware. Situational awareness allows you to then curate your responses, curate your address and presentation to ensure that it actually deals with something that is relevant to your audience, and not just the fact that I prepared and therefore this is how I'm going to say it and this is how I'm going to deliver it. Yes. You know, I'm actually preparing for, I should be attending an interview very soon, and I was laughing to myself to say, my goodness, I feel sorry for my interviewers. My wife was laughing as we were talking about it. I said, I feel sorry for my interviewers. Because I was thinking about how I see interviews as opportunities now. Because you are able to walk into a room and to express yourself in a way that might not necessarily get you the job, but when you know what you are doing. I have, I'm thinking of a situation that happened a while back with someone who I know who did not get the job, but was called in to consult the person who got the job. And he said, I found that very interesting. So we began to discuss the interview. And he said, by the time I was done with the interview, we were just talking. They were asking me questions about my life, what I'd been doing, how I've done certain things that I'd done. I said, what was the tone of the conversation? He said it stopped being an interview. It became more like a fishing expedition where they were just trying to find out things about me. I said, that's very interesting, because when you're able to shift the narrative in any space, where if you started a conversation like this and you end it like this, you have done enough to ensure that no matter the outcome, you have laid eggs. Remember, we were talking about laying eggs, making sure that you are memorable. That when you leave the room, conversations around you continue because of how you handle yourself in the room. And so that's why I'm saying I laugh about it, because I know that no matter the outcome, I would have been successful in the room. Because as a communicator, you know that the agenda may be beyond just that particular job. That person may leave that organization and go somewhere and say, listen and listen to me carefully. The person who can do this, I met 5 years ago. This is the person. And so situational awareness. So the first level of awareness is an awareness of yourself. Being confident and comfortable with yourself, so much that whether it's a mistake that happens in the conversation and in the presentation, it doesn't trip you up. You're able to continue and it won't faze you. And then you understand the room enough to be able to know how to engage with the conversation. So for instance, I'm sure you've been in situations before where you are talking and you can tell that this person is just waiting for me to finish. They don't care about what I'm saying. They just want me to finish. That's all they are waiting for. And so when you are in a space, reading that space is also very important, where when you know that drawing out my answers here is working against me, drawing out this conversation is working against me, you adjust accordingly, so that even when someone walks away with a negative report about you, they're like, I really didn't like her, but I appreciated the fact that she was not talking too much. She was just to the point and ensured that we understood what we're dealing with. That must always be the agenda, not to be perfect, but to ensure that every crowd you are engaging with, every audience, you are so aware, you are able to read the room so effectively that you give them of your best and what is relevant to the assignment at the time. Now, the question then would be, how does one read the room? How does one read the room? How do you determine how you need to behave, how to engage with an audience? The same tools that are used by you in your preparation. Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to find out if you finished the conversation around the boardroom thing.
Oh, no.
We're still going?
I would want you to watch it again, because there's multiple players and multiple elements of communication there. Because just let me give you a quick example around when he stands up and he walks to the window. How he uses silence to command authority. He says nothing. He goes to the window and he's talking to a crowd, and all they are seeing, all they are experiencing of him is his voice. They can't see his expressions. They can't see his gestures. At that particular point, he's painting a picture with only his voice. He tells them, he says, my job, my one job is to guess what the music is doing. That's what he tells them. And then he stands and he looks out and he says, where I'm standing, all I can hear is silence. But the way he delivers that particular statement, my God, of body language, the use of silence and pausing that he engages with, so that you know that a pause is communication by itself. How he paints the picture of the fact that things are so bad, when they can't see him, is facing elsewhere, using his words, how he goes slow and he goes quiet.
Sorry, my battery was running
And
low.
so there are elements of Say again.
I was saying my battery was running low. I didn't realize that I'm low, but I've charged. Just the position.
Oh, I see.
Okay. We are good.
Yeah.
I'll be a bit in that state because it's sitting in a funny way.
And so I was
Are we
saying that,
okay?
yes. So I was saying that
Okay.
when you're observing this gentleman as he delivers this discourse on how the company is on its way down, even how he raises his voice to oppose what he's suggesting, to state, he's communicating the urgency, he's communicating the desperation of the situation, to the point where all of us, as we are observing this scene, you can deduce everything that's going on. You are clear about what is being communicated, how it's been communicated, and they're able to paint such a clear picture of the desperation of the time, such that I want you to also pay attention to how your emotions are being engaged. It's very easy, for instance, to dislike the CEO guy.
Mm-hmm.
Just, it's almost natural not to like him because of how he comes
Mm-hmm.
across. There's the other
And the
gentleman
leaning
who
back,
is trying to say again.
the leaning back and the forward when he was present, when he's talking and
Yes,
he's so harsh and he leans back like he's letting you feel that you should be free to talk, but then he comes back with this kind of force again.
yes. He was in control. If he
It was
felt like you were not delivering to his standards, he would take back that opportunity. he was so he was such a domineering authority, and yet, if you remember, as he walks in, he's not a very big guy, but
he fills the
you
room to the max,
yes,
and the
yes,
intimidation was so much that that gentleman who was asked to speak and give a solution to what the problem was, presented himself with like so much fear, lack of confidence. He
yes,
didn't know what he was talking about, but you could tell from the conversation that he knows what he's talking about. However, the way that it came out, like he doesn't know. I think now
yes,
the CEO was trying to probe him, like apart from just telling him to talk like a baby, to talk like he's talking to a child, he was also trying to push him to bring out the information in a way that it was going to convince him. That's what I picked.
You're right, because as this guy began to answer the question, because of what, like you're saying, he obviously was nervous. He didn't expect to speak. He knows what, you can tell this guy knows his stuff. But when given the chance to speak, he's going on and on. He's being technical. So this CEO guy is being impatient with him to say. He even stops him, says, "Okay, sit down," at one point. And then he starts engaging with these other guys to say, what does this mean for us? Because he had given them the chance and he feels like he's just drawing out this explanation and he's not getting to where he wants him to get to. And as he's engaging with these other players, you can tell in the room, for instance, right at the beginning, because the gentleman we're talking about was a low-level guy. So he was not meant to talk. So the one who starts doing the presentation, very prim and well together, put to guy, he starts talking, and the CEO says, I actually want to talk to the person who put this thing together. Right? So this guy was someone who was ready to communicate. And obviously, he was positioned in a place where he was going to say the kind of things that were going to batter the CEO. So when we're talking about awareness, this particular CEO knew his people. He knew that if I allow these guys to talk, these other ones, they're going to try to make it seem like the situation is not as bad as it is. So he
Okay,
says,
now
no.
I'm understanding why there seemed to be a discomfort the moment the
Yes,
CEO says, I want the person who did this to talk. And the
yes,
person looked, uh, seemed to have no confidence, and what you could see, the tension in the room. Like before you said this, what I was reading in the room was like, they're feeling sorry for the young man because he's not presenting himself in the manner that the CEO expects. But now that you've mentioned that the first gentleman was the one to present whatever was happening and the solution, but he was stopped. The team in the room were likely to, as you've said, batter. Like what happens in organizations, the main problem is this, but when they go for these meetings, the other members reporting to the CEO, they won't give the true position for the fact that they fear for their jobs. Maybe if I report that this is not working, I'll be seen to be like opposing, and I may lose my job. So that's
yes.
the tension and the discomfort, I think, especially the person who was supposed to have presented and the others who had maybe agreed that this is what we are presenting, what they felt.
Exactly. In fact, at one point, this same young man who's given the chance to present, he's looking at the guy who was supposed to present before him. And the CEO actually tells him and says, you are speaking with me, Mr. Salvin, you're speaking with me. And so this gentleman was very aware of the room. He understood that, like you're saying, a lot of these guys are trying to make sure that their jobs are not at risk and all this and all this. The only gentleman who and the CEO knew him and trusted him was the one he asked to say, okay, we've heard what these guys are saying. He asked him, say, okay, what do we do? This guy says, we can't do what you're asking us to do. So he has a moral compass. And then so he says to him, in fact, he shouts at him, he says, I don't think you understand what your boy just said. And the tension in the room grows because he now is speaking from a level of desperation. He knows he has to be, he knows that what he needs to communicate is a certain level of urgency. And then he tells this guy, okay, if I forced you to do it, how would you do it? And this gentleman stands up, and then he too, very, very articulate. He's clear about what needs to happen, how it needs to happen, and how it can be done effectively. He even tells him, gives the CEO a warning and says, if you do this, we'll never be able to sell anything to anyone again. That's why the CEO now goes into this rant where he now communicates, even with just his voice as he's standing by the window. I'm telling you, that particular scene is something that we can talk about for weeks because it's such a masterclass in how communication can be so powerful, and how that, remember what we speak about, that it's not about preparing for a presentation, but being prepared. That when you are called upon, if you have not come to a place of self-awareness, you will find that even if you are asked to talk about something that you are so good at, you will come across like someone who is unsure, someone who doesn't really know what they are talking about. And yet, you would have been saying everything correctly. The words, if we just read the words you said, you're like, this is very well articulated. But because communication goes beyond what you say, it emanates from how confident you are on the inside, how settled you are, and how your body lends to what you are saying. You find that you come across in a very important space as someone who doesn't have a command of authority, a command of knowledge and of the subject matter the way you're supposed to come across.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is, for me, really, I go back to that particular scene as often as I can. It's downloaded on multiple of my gadgets here, where if I'm bored or I'm just running through my phone, I find it, I quickly watch, because I can see how pauses and silence can be so powerful in a presentation. How that if you want to communicate urgency, you cannot say, do you understand how what your boy is saying? It must show in your do you understand what your boy is saying? Can you understand what situation we are in right now? The passion in his voice, the realization of where they have reached is evident, to the point where just from that 11 minutes you can almost tell the rest of the story, how it's playing out, because you know what they're now. And all you have seen is 11 minutes of a movie.
Wow. I'd love to watch the whole movie.
It's an amazing movie that I like to watch movies on dialogue. So what really captivates me is the conversations in the movies, how people talk and engage, what it is that they're dealing with. Those conversations, if the dialogue, the writers are good at that, I'm there. I'm
Wow.
there and I sit through and I sit through. And so what we're trying to establish is that in as much as all these tools are important, as we're going to continue and we're going to go back into these tools and go into frameworks and go into all these things, communication first comes from you. It is an expression of who you are. Jesus, Jesus, we call him the Word. And so he is the expression of God's outbreathing, the Word. And if your words are going to have any form of impact, there must be an outbreathing of yourself. They must come from a place of confidence. They must come from a place of an inner rest, where you understand who you are, you understand your value. And so you're not trying to inflate anything when you're talking to people. That's why I said, when you mentioned that sometimes people, the ones observing you, can mistake your confidence for pride. Authenticity will always negate that. People will reject something that rubs or presses a certain button in their lives. So for instance, if I'm very insecure, when I meet someone who is secure, it exposes my insecurity. And the
Say that
reaction will
again.
be, if I'm insecure and I engage or encounter someone who is secure in themselves, it exposes my insecurity.
Okay, yes.
In the presence of someone who is secure, I'll feel like, I mean, it's like that, and how we interpret it negatively, in the sense that you start saying that, no, this person is so proud. This person, she carries herself like she knows everything well. But it's a reaction from the place of the fact that my inadequacies are being exposed by the fact that you have worked on yours. But the truth of the matter is this, that every human being, we aspire to the things that we are deficient in. So even if someone says certain things negatively about you, if you have worked on certain things in your life that communicate what people can aspire to, like being resting in oneself, being confident about yourself, the value that you bring to the table, you will find that even in the absence of an approval or receiving a job offer, you would have made enough of an impact that other opportunities may stem from that particular encounter. There's a gentleman who is a pastor in the Copper Belt. I'm trying to remember his name now. I forget his name. He started his own church. It's called Living Stones, if I'm not mistaken. He had this particular encounter or situation happen to him where he applied for a job, sat for the interview, and he didn't get the job. A couple of months later, he was called upon to say, look, you interviewed so well, and I don't even know why they never told him as soon after the interview, but they called him and said, you interviewed so well, we knew that we could not give you that job, so we were waiting because we knew that there was some reshuffling that was happening at the level of the regional leadership, not Zambia but regional, and so we want to offer you this particular position if you are interested. The reason that that happened, it has everything to do with how this person presented themselves in the interview.
Mm-hmm.
So first and foremost, a self-awareness. You work on how you have internal conversations, how
Mm-hmm.
you are at peace with the fact that, okay, I'm growing and I'm learning. And so sometimes
Mm-hmm.
mistakes will happen, but whenever I present, I make sure that I do my best. And how do I do that? I don't just prepare for the presentation, but I am on a journey of preparation, continuing to learn, to evolve, and then you settle that you're not. I know that sometimes talking to someone who is like you, where perfection is something that perfectionists love things to happen in a certain way, to be structured, to be what. But I want you to learn how to be gracious with yourself, where you can walk out of an engagement and be like, okay, um, I used my frameworks, I used my pronunciation and sayings well. I think I was a bit nervous, so I can remember myself using a bit of ums and ahs. But I know that I also engaged with these people very well. I know that I gave them my energy, my eye contact was on point. And so when you engage like that, where you're able to know what you've done well and also be aware of the things that you need to improve on, you'll find that every space you walk into, you are not inadequate. You're not judging yourself, or you're not trying to convince yourself of your capacity. But now you are confident enough to engage effectively. And one of the things that helps us to do that is consistent practice. So one of the things that we'll be doing and happening as part of this journey with you is that we'll be doing what we're calling review and reflect sessions. So
Okay.
you'll choose a topic, and then you do a video, and then we sit and review the video together in the presence of other people in the room. So if it's virtual like this, we invite a couple of other people. They're able to observe. You give a presentation, and then after we talk about it. What are the things? And the more you do, the more comfortable you become doing certain things. And so those are some of the things that help us to get to a certain awareness. When you've done something enough, you get to the place where you're like, okay, I'm not the Barbara that started in January. Now there are certain things that are, even if they wake me up, I'm going to do. They know. That's why I'm saying, for me, I feel sorry for my interviewers. I do. Not because the interview will be perfect, but because
Mm-hmm.
I know certain things that are now part of my repertoire, part of my toolkit. That when I walk into the room, there are things that I can be able that are within my control, that I make sure that are done excellently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Ah, that's great.
So again, the two things that we are trying to establish as we are beginning: a self-awareness, a clear sense of self, and then a
Awareness.
clear capacity to read the room, and now a situational awareness. So an awareness of yourself and a situational awareness, understanding how to read the room. So tomorrow, that's what we'll deal with a bit more in depth,
Mm-hmm.
to look into. Tomorrow's Friday, yes. So you'll tell me, we've done 3 days, but
Mm-hmm.
if we can do 3-4 days in a week, we'll be okay. So the next thing we'll
Okay.
deal with is situational awareness.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So you'll advise if tomorrow is feasible, or we'll go into next week. That's fine. As long as we're doing 3-4 days in a week, then it'll be okay.
It's okay. It's okay tomorrow. I'll let
All
you know
right.
when maybe I'll let you know when we might not make it for 4 days, or maybe I'll ask that we reduce the time. I will let you know the
Okay.
moment things get tougher. I'll say okay, because I'll be needing time to also prepare for something.
Sure, no problem. That's fine. So you can
But
begin to
tomorrow
look
is fine.
into. I don't know. Did you listen? Did you listen to the video by Vusi?
Yes, I did. I did by Vusi, but because I listened to it when I was attending to people, but I listened to actually all of them.
Yeah.
So Vusi, can I remember what Vusi talked about? But I think he was also talking about how the first impression.
Yes, he was. He was talking about the first impression. Yes.
First impression, how you present yourself can make someone remember you even after they leave, even if
Yes.
they don't get something from, because the impression, it talks about how you speak, your presence in terms of your appearance as well.
Yeah, looking the part.
If I remember,
Vusi
well.
is,
Mhm.
yeah,
So I was saying, if I
he is
remember
the
well, that's
foremost
how he
public
said.
speaker in Africa.
I've actually listened. I think it's the same person I was trying to mention. He was going for a competition, and when he got there, he was the only black in that competition. The clip I listened to, somebody shared, he was the only black.
Yeah.
And there was this comment from the organizer of that, the person that was receiving them and putting everything together, made a very bad point, a very bad comment, that he felt that he was relevant there. However, the person he had gone with, his, can I say his teacher? The person he had gone with just told him that after that meeting, they were supposed to have gone out. But the person he had gone with, after that comment, she told, it was a she told him that instead of going on that boat cruise, we are going to practice for what we are going to do. And him, he felt, one, he was irrelevant and he didn't want to continue. And two, he very much wanted to go for that tour. But his teacher just told him, no, we are going to prepare. And when they went, it was that tough, preparation where you do this, can you do it again? Can you do it again? Until he was so tired and frustrated and everything, but they managed to do it. And there was something that I'll try to look for that clip. That lady told him something to say that everybody that you are going to sit with, they may be award winners and what, and you've never won an award, but there's always the first time that somebody does
Yes.
something. And it is your first time. So even this competition that you're going for, everybody's doing it for the first time and you stand a chance. And I'm told he did very well. I think he came out first or second.
Yes, he did. He won. He came out number one in the public speaking world championships at 19. The first time he
Oh,
won.
yeah.
I think it was either 17 or 19. And as at 2019, Vusi was charging 103,000 for 1 hour to speak for an hour. As at 2019. And he had been in the past couple of years, I think 2023 and 2024, he's been in Zambia about 4 times. So I wonder to myself, I'm thinking to myself, wow, if that's what he used to charge in 2019, and Zambians are bringing him in. I mean, he's even spoken at Mount Zion Church. I know church, it's a different arrangement. So whenever a big organization invites him into the country because he has a relationship with Mount Zion Church, he also does come to share at church because he's a Christian.
Okay.
But the he, for me, represents how powerful you can become as a communicator, even like you've mentioned, in spaces that don't necessarily celebrate your, maybe your skin color or whatever the case may be. In South Africa, he came up in a time where there was still apartheid and all these things, but his skill set has set him apart where he's speaking across the world as a communicator. So those are the kind of people that I listen to. I listen to Vusi, I listen to Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is such an exceptional thinker. He's a kind of person who, like I said, remember that I used to rush into responding. He
So for
thinks.
the other,
Jordan Peterson.
the other person, I couldn't really get what he was trying to say. It
No,
was
no,
a
he
short
speaks
clip.
very quickly and he speaks in his mouth. Yes. It takes a while to get what he says. He speaks very, very interestingly in his mouth. But when once you kind of get acquainted to how he speaks, you can then enjoy what he says. But he's a very, very interesting thinker. The problem is that he's a clinical psychologist, he's a reader, so he's got so many big words. He will have 5 big words following each other in a sentence. But as an orator and as a communicator, if you watch his interviews where he's been invited on podcasts and they're discussing difficult matters, you will see that he is quite interesting in the way that he communicates. He can be quiet for long, to the point where it's awkward, thinking through what you've asked him, and then he will answer. By the time he answers, there are many who've tried to trap him. He's got beliefs around equality, women equality. He believes that women should be allowed to be women, not these things of where quotas are forced on them, 50 women, 50%, and all that. And so when you listen to him discuss and defend his ideas, very, very interesting communicator, very interesting. And so
Okay.
we'll end our session tonight here. And then we'll pick up tomorrow where we'll start dealing with what are the skills that help you read the room. Now that we're moving from ourselves, how to engage with situational awareness. As you walk into the room, how to determine what's the first thing to do, how to engage and ensure that you are relevant to your audience.
All right.
All right, have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, Coach Mike. Good night.
Good night.